Hello, I'm Brigantia Blackbird of Blackbird's Brew. Happy Friday, and welcome to the first installment of Fairytale Fridays. You know those old stories that we were told as children, the fables and the nursery rhymes? They were part of our rite of passage during childhood. But telling these stories isn't just about teaching simple moral lessons that children are able to understand and digest. What they do is they form the foundation of a person's cultural heritage. So it's important to keep handing these stories down. It provides a common point of connection between the generations, perpetuates certain traditions, and in some cases, some of these stories are actually the remnants of ancient mythologies that are now largely lost to us. We just have these scraps and these bits of pieces, but we do have them, and so it's important to preserve and take what we can from them. Now, it is still important to have new creations and new stories because we are still a living civilization. But at the same time, we do have a need that is equally important to remember our roots and to perpetuate old wisdom. Without both the old and the new, civilization can and it does collapse. And if you have any doubts on that, just check the historical record. You can find things there. So I decided to start this series with The Boy Who Cried Wolf because its message is extremely relevant to what's going on around us. We are seeing the consequences of playing fast and loose with the truth and a desire to gain attention and influence. The story itself is credited to Aesop of Aesop's Fables. He had once been a Greek slave, but then he became a storyteller. It's thought that the stories that are credited to him actually predate the Greek civilization and may have originated with the Sumerians. The story goes is that there was a young shepherd boy, and his sole responsibility was to tend to the flock of sheep. But he found this rather dull, he got bored, and he concocted a plan to get a bit of attention. So he cried wolf at the top of his lungs, and he raised the alarm amongst all the villagers. And now from this point forward, the story has two general versions of how it goes. The first version we'll touch on. It says that when the villagers rushed to the pasture and they came to his aid, they found the shepherd boy laughing and he was making fun of them for falling for his trick. He decided that this was great fun, so he pulled the trick again. And he was absolutely gleeful when the village believed him again. And then one night, a wolf really did come, and the wolf attacked the flock. So in a panic, the boy was crying, "Wolf, wolf," at the top of his lungs, but no one came to help. The wolf ate his fill, he went away again, and the shepherd boy was in deep trouble, both for the loss of the flock and for his actions that led up to it. Now another version is a bit more grim. It states that the boy cried wolf, the village came and rushed to help him, and then he began to boast about how he had bravely fought off the wolf and he had protected the flock. He was praised and he enjoyed his time in the limelight. Another night he cried wolf again, and then help arrived. And then he again repeated the story that, he had fought off the world. But the village had noticed that there weren't any wolf tracks. They were just a bit more tepid in their praise, and they just couldn't quite bring themselves to actually believe his story this time. And then, the following night, the wolf did come, and he attacked the sheep and the boy. He was screaming as loud as he could, crying wolf, but no one came to the boy's aid. The wolf devoured the flock and killed the boy. Now, in both versions, the shepherd boy began lying after he got bored, and instead of doing his job, he decided to create a ruckus. In one version, it was for the sake of his own amusement, and in the other, it was in order for him to get unearned praise. Soon enough, the rest of the village did see through his lies, and they did not come to his rescue when he actually needed it. A pattern of lies destroyed his credibility, and the consequences were costly. Whether it was just the loss of the sheep, which is bad enough, or the loss of the sheep and the boy himself, persistent lying came at a cost. There is a price to be paid, and paid he did. Now, today we are drowning in lies, and the motivation for all the lying is much the same as the shepherd boy in the fable. The liars are seeking notoriety, prestige, power, influence. They can't or won't build up a reputation based on their actual deeds, so they resort to deception in an attempt to gain and maintain importance. And this is why the practice of lying is associated with having a bad character, being lazy, unprincipled, manipulative. It's an attempt to have that which was not earned. which is a dishonorable pursuit in and of itself. And liars don't like it when people cease to believe them or even to start questioning them. And we have daily proof of this. We have very prominent people, major institutions in society throwing absolute hissy fits about these horrible people who aren't taking their statements at face value. And why don't people believe them anymore? Don't we know it's their job to tell us what to think? These habitual liars are often confronted with their dismal track record, and that just enrages them all the more because they didn't respect people enough to be truthful from the start, and they certainly don't respect people enough to confess when their lies are brought into the open and they're undeniable. So many of these liars just double down and they lie more. They lie loudly, hoping that just enough people will remain fooled so that they can retain their position and, of course, also their own self-delusions. This is a lesson in the importance of ensuring that actions have consequences. The desire to evade consequences is another form of lying. It's self-deception at the very least. And the longer that illusion persists, the worse the ultimate outcome becomes. And if you think about it, a lot of the tropes that get pushed in public discourse are all about not holding people responsible. And this is disguised as mercy and kindness, but it's just the opposite. Without consequences, people can't learn from their mistakes. Not just don't learn. They can't learn because they haven't actually been corrected and they haven't seen the bad outcome of their deeds or they haven't experienced it. They have not felt that pain. And so the same bad behavior continues. It isn't kind to not hold people accountable for lies and other misconduct. It is cruelty. It is enabling their self-destruction. It also makes the person enabling this behavior complicit in the lie because they're adding another layer to the lie that the original lie didn't actually matter and shouldn't have any ripple effects. This is just stupid. Children's stories are a way of simply communicating important principles to the children so they can form a framework with which to interact with the world. It gives them a few ground rules for life. But the value for adults in these stories lies in reminding us of our own foundations and why that foundation is essential. We don't just glean that the moral of The Boy Who Cried Wolf is that a liar will not be believed even when telling the truth. But as adults, we can discern that there are more layers to this. It's about the motivation for why people lie and what they hope to get out of it. And we see the destructive consequences and the potential for tragedy when a known liar breaks with all past precedent and then they happen to say something true, it gets ignored, and then whoosh, disaster all the way round. And more than that, we can see these lessons unfold before our eyes in real time. We can point out to instances in our own lives and the people we know and in broader society. We know that this principle about lying is true because we can see the damage that's done when people ignore it. That in turn informs us about what kind of standard we should hold ourselves to, what standard we should acquire of others, and why. And this is why this whole video series has been created. So now's the time to let me know what you think. You could tell me all about it in the comments section below, or if you would go to the description box and click on the link to the Gilded server Blackbird's Brew, you can find myself and other pagans there. We have a lot of people who do have a love for storytelling and who like to get a little bit deeper and underneath the surface of a lot of these old tales. So you would find plenty of conversation, and I do hope you will join us there soon. But that'll do it for this video, and I will see you next time. Bye.